What's up, Facebook? You there? Welcome to Austin, Texas. I'm outside of my bike shop, Mellow Johnny's. We've been around 10 years. My GM, the very famous Will Black. Take a look at, before we go inside, take a look at this town. Look up there. Folks can show this. That right over there, that's the state bird. That crane. 100 people a day are moving here to Austin. Let's go do a podcast. Want to go inside? Right here we have our, not that you want a total tour, but this is the Juan Pelota Cafe. And, you want to go that way or which way do you want to go? Yeah, let's go over here. Get a little shot of it. Yeah. Ben, say hi.
Good morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Cross. Jonathan, what's up? Look at him hiding back there. Kiwi, Eric. Ready?
Did Mellow Johnny's go over budget on air conditioning last night?
No, I know. It's, I texted Todd Church this morning. I said, hey, crank the AC. I don't know if maybe it was green. Maybe it needed to be the blue message. He didn't get it.
Everybody's sleeping.
That's all right. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for
having us. This is the brown bull. They sell the brown cow. The brown bull is with a shot of espresso in it. Little known fact. All right, JB, you ready? Oh, I need to put my things on. My things. I had my first wake surfing experience last night with JB and his daughter out on Lake Austin. We have footage of it. Maybe we'll put it up, show it later. Or were you planning on showing that?
No, we'll put it up. You need to put it on your page. He actually did pretty good. Did pretty impressed.
Okay. Thank you.
I was impressed.
It got less good after a couple Lanceritas. I don't know why he can't stay up. That was the kid. All right, let's do it. You good?
Yep.
Record helps.
The old record button.
And then wait, hang on, before so we are gonna let you guys ask some questions. JB,
yeah, we talked about it.
Okay, you all talked about it?
Yeah.
Awesome, because I thought that worked good in Boulder.
Yeah, it would. When we do get to the question part, it'll happen maybe right here. So if you think at the end, towards the end, and we're not pressed for time if you are gonna have a question.
We lost our live feed?
We're back.
We're back live? Okay. All right, welcome back to the Stages podcast, covering Stage 12 today. What an exciting day, but before I get to that, we're live. This is another live podcast like we did the other day in Boulder at Vecchio's. However, this one is at my own bike shop, Mellow Johnny's, and we have a really great turnout, great crowd. Thank you all for being here.
Say hi, everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Get those yellow jerseys in there, Dave. That sure piss off some people. Nobody's come to pick those up yet.
Hey, the French guys aren't tall enough to get them down. That's all I can think.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a minute. But speaking of yellow jerseys, we saw a changing of leadership today on the Tour de France, which, quite frankly, I'm pretty surprised at. I watching the race and watching not so much watching Chris Froome, but watching Team Sky. I mean, I had seen that movie, right? It got down to 12 guys, they had 4. It got down to 11 guys, they had 3. And then in the final minutes, or the final 10 minutes, Mikko Landa was totally emotionless, pain-free, controlling the race. I thought, okay, this is really boring, and then it wasn't. And I looked at my watch. I was like, well, I could have slept till 9:45. But
that's a testament to how quickly it can change.
Well, I think it's a testament to a couple of things, and we talked about it, JB, when we were watching. I expected the race to start, quote unquote, start earlier on the Col de Monte. I spoke about it yesterday, and then you had the Portobalas, and then you had the Pyrrhus Road, all 3 really hard climbs. I expected somebody to try to open up the race. I think Team Sky was just too strong and too dominant and too present at the front of the group for they just discouraged anybody from doing anything. Again, I've seen that movie. And then it just, I think that the key thing for me, and we talked about it, is when you have the Col de Pyrrhus Road, which is hard, and then you have a downhill. The downhill just, it just, not that people get quote unquote cold, but you're not. It's a rough transition from that short, fast downhill back into a super steep climb to the finish. Personally, that would make me nervous. You can't keep the rhythm on that downhill, and
it's a very different thing from just a long slug climb summit finish. The little dip
right.
is what you're referring to.
Right, and they had to run into it. So the first steep part, you saw the speed was high, so nobody's going to send one that early. But to see Chris Froome struggle, a couple of things happened. To see Chris Froome struggle like that in the last 500 meters, that shocked me. Now, we're going to get into later why we think that happened. But the key thing that I saw, I didn't hear it, but you can, having been in that situation, you saw exactly what happened. The second he started to struggle, keep in mind, Fabio Aru's team director, Bardet's team director, they are sitting in the car, and all the mechanics in the back and all the people in the car are watching the race on TV live. Like, we're all watching the race. Mm-hmm. They're driving and watching. So the second that they saw him struggle, they grabbed the radio.
What are they likely saying?
Oh, it's every bad word, any Vince Lombardi thing that you could say to get. But you saw them react, and they don't even have to look back. It's in the ear going, he's dropped. He's dropped, or he's on the limit. I mean, you saw that he's already starting to. As soon as he started to, if I'm Chris Froome, you don't come off the front. You're guy 2, guy 3. You don't start slipping back. As soon as he slips back, they tell him, and then as soon as he starts to get gapped off, they just said, put on the gas, and that's exactly what happened. And by the way, I'd never done that finish, but it looked hella steep right there at the end.
It did. TV doesn't do it justice. And we've talked about that earlier in the podcast when they start talking about grades of 9, 10, 11, 15%. To most of us, we don't know what that means. You know what I mean? We just don't have a gauge for that.
Well, when you're 120 pounds and they were standing up and just fighting their bikes like all get out, it's steep. And by the way, it was a long day. It was 130 something miles. Totally different. I think the rain probably helped them early on because the temperatures, I think TV said at the top of the Monte, the temperatures were in the 50s. That's a hot day. Really tough.
Do you think that Bardet and Aru, at that final moment where Froome, I wouldn't say he totally cracked, but he just couldn't hold on.
No, he totally cracked.
He cracked? That's how you would describe it?
That was a crack.
So Froome cracks. Do you think they're sitting there going, oh my gosh, I wish I had gone earlier?
Hang on. I mean, he lost, and I should have my computer open. How ill-prepared in front of
I've got
these cool
it.
folks.
What do you need?
He lost 20 seconds?
I don't know the answer to that.
I thought you had your computer open.
Here's the overall time, and then the
17 seconds? He lost 17 seconds in half a kilometer, in 500 meters?
Yeah.
That's a crack.
But that's
a big crack.
That's where I'm going with that question. Do you think they're sitting there going, oh my gosh, why didn't we go earlier? And then they could put a big enough time gap to where a time trial doesn't become a factor.
I think a couple things. One, I think the pace and the tempo that Landa was setting was not they were scared of that. And Froome looked fine. Lando looked fine.
His lead out looked like they could.
And if somebody starts to not look good, they hear it in the ear from the team director who's watching on TV. But they looked good. And I think also, I'm sure these guys have seen this finish. I bet they were scared of that finish. And if you send one early, like George Bennett did, this kid I love this kid. They're super steep. So I think they were all intimidated and aware of that final pitch.
On a quick note, since you mentioned George Bennett, you mentioned him the other day in the podcast, and Stuff Magazine Online, and I'm giving a shout out to him for covering it, but they made it look like they did a sit-down interview with you talking about George Bennett, because you said this is a kid to watch.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we saw him being active today.
Yeah. Look, it could be a lot of things. It could have just been a bad day.
Right.
He could have. It was a long day. He might have misjudged his nutrition or hydration. It could be a lot of things. And if it stays the way it is today, he still wins the Tour de France.
You pointed out something interesting with Team Sky and his lead out. And if all of you watched that today, boy, they're efficient. As you said, I've seen this movie. They were lined up. They were taking care of him, protecting him, doing all that. But when they were done, they were just, as you call it, they just sat up. Like it was like they hit the brakes.
Yeah.
And explain that to everybody, because it's actually a very good tactical move from a team perspective.
Yeah. So, and the TV really focused on, especially Mikhail Kwiatkowski, when he set up. And so, when you're in that, if you're a team leader or a team director, and you have that team, and you have that quote unquote that train, and when they pull off, sometimes you see guys pull off, and they get dropped, but they don't get dropped that much. They're kind of fighting it. And so for me as a team leader, or if I was a director, what are you doing? Like you're done. And the thing every single one of those guys do when they get done doing their job for the day, they literally come to a stop. I mean, it's almost as if they could, they would turn around and ride down and recover a little bit. I mean, they put it in park, which I love to see, because those guys know that they've done their job for the day. Doesn't matter if they lose 10 minutes or an hour and 10 minutes, they got to get up the next day and ride, do the same thing. Oh, well, they don't have to now, but they were thinking, trust me, when Kwiatkowski's dropped, he's thinking, shit, I got to do this all again tomorrow. But now he doesn't. But I love the fact that they completely sit up, they think about the team, they think about the next day.
I mean, if you want to call it soft pedaling, you can't really do that a climb, but they're literally conserving all their energy and being a true domestique, right?
Yep.
Live to fight another day. So what does this mean now with Aru? And did we confirm if Fuglsang is done? We were in the car.
I love how we don't know anything.
We were in the car.
It's like that drive over here, we just...
Do you guys know? I know he was off the back. Is he out?
Jacob Fuglsang, is he...
He's done.
He's out.
He's
so
out.
I think that's...
So that's... What does that mean
that's
for Aru?
That's a huge deal.
So now, what's this look like? We've seen the dominance of Team Sky. What's this look like for Aru to try to hold on?
Well, we're going to find out tomorrow, because tomorrow is a spicy day. I mean, we'll get to tomorrow, but just a little preview. Very short, never flat, and it's a day where you better have a team. And so for him to lose his, a guy who was in 5th in the Tour de France, his main lieutenant who clearly has the form, just won the Dauphiné Libre. You look around and go, okay, if we stay like this, he gets through the Massif Central, he gets back to the Alps. They're going over the Telegraph, they're going over the Galibier, they're finishing on the Izoard. With that Team Sky, I mean, it's a big, big blow for him. Now, he's super psyched right now. He's got the jersey. It's the first Italian in years to have the jersey. That's all fine and good. But that better quickly transition from, okay, and I'm not, and it's just because of the history there, and Vino, and the Vinokurov, and the whole thing. Having said all of that, when somebody has the yellow jersey, you'd be surprised how people wake up, the teammates, the domestiques, quote unquote, how they wake up the next day. They're different guys. They're out of the race like Fuglsang, that's one thing. But people that we're not thinking about or talking about, they have to rise to the occasion, and a lot of times they do.
Okay. I have to know, is it an unwritten rule when the cameras are on you on a climb, you have to stick your tongue out for a length of time?
Did somebody do that again today?
It's just you constantly see it. It goes from comfortable riding to, oh, the moto's right there. Let me let the tongue hang out.
There's only one athlete in the world that can do that, and he doesn't compete anymore, and that's Michael Jordan. Thomas Buckler can't do it. The kid the other day, the stuff is you can't keep the tongue in.
I think people have gotten a kick out of it. I could be wrong, but wondering what it's like to sit there when the tour is going on and we're watching it. A couple things drive Lance crazy that you might find interesting.
Oh, I'm already getting, look, I'm going to have to switch to water. I'm saying that already. I know what you're going to say.
One is the TV attack.
Yeah.
He doesn't like the TV attacks, and that's where you usually see the tongue hanging out and being a little overly dramatic and the extra grimacing and flailing of the bike. That bugs him. But when you're at a summit finish and they're checking in on the popped riders that are off the back, this guy is about to lose his mind.
If the footage goes to Quintana or Contador one more time, and they are not, no offense, they are not in this bike race.
Right.
They're not in it overall, and they're not in it right then. We don't need to see that.
Right.
Because, what do you, if somebody launches some great, amazing attack on the front, we're going to miss it, and then they're going to have to, oh my God, we missed it. It's like, okay, they're dropped. Next.
Yeah.
You're the one who has to sit there with me every day. It's the only thing that gets me out of my chair.
Drives you just absolutely bonkers.
And I think I don't know exactly, but I think it's so NBC. I'm not being critical of NBC. I don't think it's they get the feed, and so that's
they're commentating on what they see.
Right.
They don't have control of
so
that.
they're given that, they talk over that, and then later on we talk about that. But they get what
technical director.
Yeah, it's like a closet Contador fan. A weird thing.
That wasn't where I was going to go with that. I'll take that. That's what it is. I bet that's what it is. So, another thing you said is very Steel Day.
Yep.
And, it's hard for me to imagine any of these athletes being able to raise their game because it's a holiday.
Yeah.
But yet you say it's a significant day.
Well, it's their 4th of July. And so it's, for a Frenchman, it's a big deal. You'll see, they'll change their bikes. They'll have the bar tape will be red, white, and blue, the bleu, blanc, rouge. You have a day which is just begging for attacks early on. Every Frenchman, they'll be warming up tomorrow. We talked at the beginning of this whole podcast thing. When you see the guy warming up, you know he's going from the gun. Tomorrow's 100 kilometers. There will be guys warming up. Because they are, especially the Frenchmen, they're going from the gun. Tomorrow's going to be very, very hard.
Okay. And what can we look for tomorrow in the finish? It's a little bit, I think it's a bit of a technical finish. They've all been, it seems like we've said that every time on these finishes. They just designed it that way this year.
Don't look, people. The ones here don't look at this. It's a bad look.
That print is very, very small on the race Bible.
Look, JB, we have 100 kilometers. So we have 101 kilometers. So we have 63 miles. That you just never see a 63-mile stage in the Tour de France.
I know. The rest of us weekend warriors here are kind of smacking our gums going, oh, I could tackle that.
Yeah. So
not at that pace.
But guys can make mistakes on those short days it's I've done the same thing before where you have a shorter day, you think, okay, it's a tough day. I don't need to put food in my pocket. I can take so guys start to manage what they're carrying around, and then it can just come and bite you. You have 3 Category 1 climbs in 63 miles. It's going to be, and especially for now a new leader, a new team leading, it's going to be hard to manage that race. You're going into this part of France. is just always tricky. The pavement, we think we have slow pavement here in Austin, Texas. Classic chip seal. This is chip seal. It's actually chip seal times 5.
See, we never think about that.
Yeah, it's slow.
Different pavement from one day to the next.
Switzerland has these great fast roads. You saw the roads today. They were beautiful. They've been newly paved. The Massif, it is until he got his gear stuck and won a group sprint, which was unheard of. But he's not a nobody.
Right.
You know, he's been twice. He come second twice in the Giro, I believe. He's been a contender in major tours. He was strong today, a lot stronger than Chris Froome.
And you hear it on some.
Has the experience.
Yeah, you hear it in some of the commentating, and then it validated it a bit for me when I hear you talking about it during the tour. Different cultures and countries have different styles.
Rigoberto Urán, but just in watching him and like watching his body language, and after the win the other day, I mean, I think he's just sort of a long time ago in the Motorola days. We had a teammate, Alejandro Mejia, and he was on the podium of the Tour. This guy was completely crazy, and now he's like a doctor in Colombia, which shows you what I know. But you could never pin him down. You could never find, if you set up a time to train with him, they wouldn't show up. And then you'd get to the end of your 5-hour ride, he'd be coming the other way. I'm like, hey, I don't know.
You think that team support really is a big factor?
The interesting thing is Landa was setting such a high tempo. If Froome was on the limit, I mean, he needs to be saying, I know what I would say. And you can do it pretty stealthy. I mean, you can, he's right in front of you. The guys behind you, there are people around. They don't necessarily hear you. You can, hey, he's up. Or even get on the radio, like back off a little. He never asked him to slow down from what I could see. But he clearly had a crisis at the end. I just think my gut says it was just, he missed something today.
Yeah.
And I don't think I still think he wins.
Well, on that note, if Landa was fresh today and he looked really strong, he looked like he could have pounced, would it have been beneficial for Froome to say, go for the win and take some time bonus off of it?
No.
I know that's not a good long-term play.
They don't operate that way.
They're thinking about tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the next day, and the next day, and the next day.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any more thoughts on tomorrow? We're going to field some live questions here from Mellow Johnny's in Austin.
No. I mean, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. It's and also too, when it's that short, they get it's a late start. I mean, they're going to start this bike race they always finish at the same time. In case you didn't know that.
So everybody gets to rest a little bit.
Yeah, they're
more.
going to start. So the official starts at. I can't believe I can't read this. 2:45 is the start.
Yeah.
2:45 in the afternoon.
A little bit more recovery time for someone like
Yeah.
Froome, right?
Yeah.
All right. You want to tackle some questions?
Let's do it.
All right. If you want to ask a question here, make your way over to my left.
You better
here.
say how many questions we're going to do.
It depends on how long one answers. We don't know. What if you give yes no answers? We're going to do 50.
Good.
So tell long stories, and we'll do a few.
How are you?
Hey Lance, Rick Taylor. Hey Lance, I'm Rick Taylor from Austin.
All right.
Hey, I'm concerned. My wife and I are concerned that there's only 3 Americans on the tour this year, and we see other sports like football and baseball and soccer and even lacrosse have all these camps and a huge youth focus on a variety of different sports in the United States. We wonder why UCF or some other organization has not got a coordinated effort to put together something for cycling so that we can build cyclists in the U.S.
I think and I talked about this in the previous show because it was a big story in the beginning. I think it's a little deceiving. I think our talent pool is, I mean, look, we could have 11 in the Tour de France next year. and everybody, oh, okay, we're cool. It's just in you know, and I actually had a question on Twitter today was from somebody that asked me if was it a mistake that BMC didn't bring TJ Van Gardner to the tour just to have a backup GC guy. I mean, that was their decision, but there's an American out that doesn't go to the tour that's, you know, arguably one of the best cyclists in the world. We're not thinking about him. We're thinking about the fact that there's only 3 Americans. I don't stress about that. I know that it's a topic, but the guys in the pipeline, and when I've talked about these guys, this Nielsen Prowlis and Adrian Costa, these kids are so good. And they're by the way, they're in a team being developed by Axel Merckx, a team we started a long time ago that George Bennett came out of, and a lot of these great kids, Nate Brown came out of, Taylor Finney came out of. You know, you're gonna have to wait a year or 2, or maybe 5, but they're gonna be.
They're coming.
Yeah, they're coming.
Good, super. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks.
All right, next question. Good job on that one. I like that. What's your name?
Eric.
Eric, go ahead.
All right. Chris Froome has stated that he plans on doing the Vuelta after the Tour. What do you think his chances are of making up the ground in this Tour to win it, and recover for the Vuelta and win that?
Well, like I said, I still think. I think he had a bad day. I think he recovers. I think he knows he has the final time trial. That although Rigoberto Urán is not, he's better. He's a better TT specialist than a better TT rider than Bardet and Aru. You know, if I'm Chris Froome, I win why would you want to ride the Tour of Spain? I mean, that is such a janky bike race. Like, if you're the go to the ticker tape parade, take your wife and kid to the south of France. I mean, hats off to him, because that takes more than anything mentally just to go, oh my God, I'm going to leave for 3 weeks and I'm going to. And the Vuelta is a nervous.
Yeah. Come back next year. What's your name?
Paul Wallace.
Go ahead,
Paul
Paul.
Wallace. 2 of my favorite riders on the tour were Alexander Vinokurov and Tor Hushovd.
Yep.
And this is a 2-part question. Question 1 is, what kind of personal experiences did you have with them, and how do you evaluate them? And the second part is, will there ever be a tour of Texas?
That's a good question. So, you know, Vinokurov was a scrappy rider, was a great rider. You know, he was part of, as was Tour, but all part of the same generation, so it doesn't come without its complications and its legacy, for lack of a better word. I never had a great relationship with Vino, but he's not a guy that you can. He's not. Nobody's snuggling up with Alexander Vinokurov. Tor Hushovd, on the other hand, different style of rider, more of a classics guy, a sprinter, green jersey contender, amazing guy, great friend of mine, somebody that never raced on the same team with him, but was always a pleasure to be around, always a pleasure he spoke English very well, and you could communicate with him. And there are times when we were in the south of France and his family would come over, his kids, and you know, so that was a much closer personal relationship. And you know, two complete, personally and professionally, 2 very different style riders. And then as far as the Tour of Texas goes, that's a really, I haven't thought about that in a long time. The first bike race that I ever saw in Austin was the Tour of Texas. They had the criterium around Zilker Park, and it was right when I had moved to Austin in 1989. I think it was the last year of the Tour of Texas. And I went down there, and they had all the big American pro teams, and I don't think you could pull off too many professional bike races in Austin anymore. And Texas is a big state, so it's hard to figure out where you go. And then finally, these races that come along, they last, and it's frustrating, but they last for a year or 2, and then they disappear. Whether it's all the bike races that we know, and you know, that's something that, I mean, to Rick's question about American talent, if we had races that stayed around forever, or for a long time, it's a lot easier to put young kids in that, develop them. They see it goes through their neighborhood. They think about cycling, so you have to have the events too to grow the stars.
It also takes a promoter willing to hustle and get the sponsors and assume the risk and even be lucky to break even on an event like that, right? Who's going to undertake it?
I think break even is your best case scenario.
Right,
I mean,
right.
The Tour of Colorado that just stopped 2 years ago was losing millions per year.
Okay. I think we have time for 3 more questions pretty quickly. I got a little dude up here.
Whoa! What's up, buddy?
He swims at the JCC
Oh,
Piranhas.
What are your predictions for the polka dot jersey?
Oh, my favorite jersey.
What's your name, by the way?
Caleb.
Caleb. Good job.
Do you like the polka dot jersey?
One of my favorites.
Okay. Well, then don't listen to some of the earlier podcasts. I know. I was sort of making I was having a little fun with the polka. I know you're looking at me like I'm weird. This is
I noticed you have a swim team jersey. You want to ask me about swim?
JB's trying to change the question. No, but I want to answer the question. I don't know who has it now, just like I don't know anything about today. That drive down.
Owen Barkey.
JB, you're fired. You're fired. But you know what? For the first time, he proved today that he's the best. So he should have the polka dot jersey. What I don't like is when, this is a real name in the Tour, but I just think it's such a French name. This kid, Pierre Latour. I mean, the dude ought to be in like Tour de Pharmacy. When somebody like that has the polka dot jersey, I don't like that. But if Barguet has the polka dot jersey, I like that. He's proving to be the best climber. You and me are going to predict that he wins it in Paris. All right, bro? Thanks.
Good job, Shady. Very good.
Whoa. Don't let me hang.
All right. Now we got a guy in the F1 shirt, so he's a big Euro sport on all fronts. All right, what's your name?
Jared. I just wondering with Froome suffering bad.
Are you from Austin?
No, from Ireland.
Yeah. I knew that.
With Froome suffering the final climb, how do you feel his next 12 hours will be with the mental side and from the body side?
Yeah. I think they have questions. I was in that position a few times, and you just, no matter how many people sit around you and say, hey, it's okay, and bad day, we'll get, you still think about it. And those people are, by the way, those people around you going, it's all good, it's okay, they also are thinking about it. So, tomorrow will be a big day for him. I don't think anybody's gonna, GC-wise, is gonna make a difference. I think it'll be an action-packed day, but he'll be listening to himself, listening to his legs, testing his feelings. Tomorrow will be a big day for him to gauge how he bounces back and how he feels. But they got stress. And how about Dan Martin? Special shout out to Dan. Dan Martin, talk about something. This is the nature of the Tour de France. How good does he look? And he was in the perfect place, but he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Without Richie Porte going down, I mean, we're talking about him.
He's currently sitting in 5th, about 1:41 down.
Right, which is everything he lost by being at the wrong place at the wrong time, which was the place he should have been.
Last question here. This has been fun.
Hey Lance,
Hey, all right.
Crandall from Gear Masters, KB. So as far as nutrition, these guys are out there for so long. What kind of things do you normally have, like before the day starts,
Yep.
and then after, as far as recovery and
Yep.
things like that?
I suspect they still eat the same breakfast that we always ate, which was pasta for breakfast. It's terrible, but that's what glycogen and carbohydrates are so important on a day like that's 130 miles. They did get a little lucky with that rain in the middle. Those temperatures probably saved the day for a lot of those guys. And before I forget this, I want to go back to talking about the crash right before they start the Pure Sword when Kwiatkowski rides right between two RVs.
Okay.
And that's like, wow. But nutrition-wise, it's a carbohydrate-heavy breakfast. And then we always, when most of the time we'd be in the bus, just a big bowl of potatoes. None of this stuff is good. I mean, nobody's having any, 3-star Michelin dinners, it's just more about just fuel and energy, getting it in. And then during the race, we talked about this yesterday, it is the biggest smorgasbord of, you know, stuff that guys like or care for or don't like. And then, and obviously, which I suspect happened today, if you make a mistake, you see what, and we'll learn more. I mean, Chris Froome will probably say what happened. And I don't think he's going to say, oh, I just didn't feel good. I think there's going to be an excuse, or there's going to be a reason.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Good job.
Thanks.
Hey, this was a lot of fun. Okay, let's talk about that crash real quick. You wanted to talk more about it.
Well, it was just...
Froome was following a wheel, and
he was following his teammate. But the only point is that, like we see in cycling, I mean, if the RV is moved over a little bit, it's just it just changes the whole the fact that he shot right between the two. Imagine being that guy out there with this poodle, you know, and the bike race comes literally to his front door.
Right. No kidding.
Yeah.
It just, I think what you're saying is how quickly that could have changed.
Oh, for sure.
He luckily went right between them, but that could have ended it.
Absolutely.
It can just happen that quickly. Well, cool. This has been fun. Tell everybody about the stem caps in front of you. Can you see that?
Kiwi's, is Kiwi here?
Yeah.
Kiwi's here. So my buddy Kiwi, who used to work here at Mellow Johnny's forever, is working for this company now. I rock these stem caps. They're really, maybe you should be up here talking about it, but they even did the Suffer stem cap. So it's not your classic stem cap that has the screw in the middle. Lay it on us, Kiwi.
It's no bolt in the middle. Well, okay, so it's a two-piece system. You know, we made a traditional stem cap for Mellow Johnny's for years, and the issue is you've always got to try to curve your logo around a bolt hole, and it doesn't work all the time. You know, if we put a bolt hole in the middle of that, we do, it would look pretty bizarre. So,
yeah. So you reimagined the stem cap.
Yeah, I don't want to take credit.
Oh.
My boss, Phil, very smart man, came up with the idea. We got 2 patents pending on it. Yeah, you no longer have to put a hole in the middle of your logo. And the awesome thing is
you can interchange them.
You can change them out.
Yeah.
So we got 3 designs, and you could buy all 3 and switch them out whatever day you wanted to ride which one.
Yep. I love the Suffer one too, because that's like when you're Chris Froome needs one of those because he's always looking down there. I mean, what's he looking at?
What if your logo? But what if your logo actually has a hole in the middle of it? Nah, I lost everything.
Yeah.
I tend to do that, but it's pretty cool. Just prior to you walking up here, some people were asking, and I think it's worth touching on again, what we do means, what stages means, and what forward means. Can we hit that real quick?
Oh my God!
I know you don't have to go on and on. I know.
Quickly,
you have a tea time, don't you?
No, I'm going to the gym. I'm going over to see the boys at On It, and we're going to get on it. But look, we do is an answer to a question, and the question could be, well, who wants to go to the gym at noon? Well, everybody standing in that gym working out says we do. You know, who wants to meet here on Saturday mornings at 8 o'clock and go hammer for 100K and suffer? Like a lot of people ask, like, God, who wants to do that early on a Saturday morning? Everybody standing there answers with we do. Clearly, they don't, you know, but it's a way of life. And then forward was just, forward actually, and he's been listening to this podcast, thank you very much, Dave Lettieri. When I was training all the time in Santa Barbara, I was riding with Dave Lettieri, who has an amazing bike shop in Santa Barbara called Fast Track. And every time we get to an intersection, and you know, you can either go left or right or straight. Most people say straight. And Lettieri, he would never say straight. He would always say forward, never straight. And so I stole that and borrowed that and poached that from Dave Lettieri. And then stages is just, as we sat around and kicked around this idea for this podcast, I went back to the same guy who did all of the artwork and all of the creative for We Do and Forward, James Selman, an old friend of mine, great cyclist, great artist, and told him what we were thinking. And he came up with stages. Stages represents, obviously, the stages that we talk about every day. But for me, it represents different stages of my life, right? We all, or most of us know that there's been multiple stages, and this is yet just another stage.
Very good. Good answer. And that didn't take very long.
No, thank you.
If you do want to get some of this gear, people have been asking, and trust me, you didn't set this out to pimp gear. and there's limited runs of it. People are asking. We do shop.com if you want to buy some of this gear. And Mellow Johnny's been great handling all that as we're bopping around covering the tour. And you can send your comments, questions, anything like that to stages@wedosport.com. It's WEDU sport.com.
Yep.
And post and share this. Share the Facebook feed. Share the URL if people want to subscribe. We're only halfway there, believe it or not.
A little more than halfway.
Stagespodcast.com.
And thanks to everybody for showing up. Your boss will write letters, to your bosses explaining why you weren't here. And we only spent $1 today in the cuss jar, JB.
Pretty good. I'm impressed.
All right, thank you all very much.